Hello students, I hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss about the United Nations Security Council. We are going to cover every aspect of UNSC, and this is a very important topic if you consider it from the perspective of competitive exams. So we are going to cover all the important points about UNSC, and also we are going to do a quick round of 10 MCQs which will help you to uh, at least kind of check how much you could learn from this video. So let's get started. So the United Nations Security Council's primary responsibility, if you see, the primary responsibility of UNSC is maintaining international peace and security. So this is a very important, thing to remember, that what is the primary responsibility of UNSC? The primary responsibility of UNSC is maintenance of international peace and security. Now in this video, what we will cover? First of all, we will have an introduction and a key purpose. Then we will see the composition of UNSC, that is its permanent and non-permanent members. Then another important aspect, which is the power of the veto, that we will discuss in detail. Next is the key functions and powers of UNSC and how it works. So basically the decision-making process of UNSC and critical debates that are there around UNSC, and its effectiveness is questioned. If it is, how, what are the reforms that has been suggested, and in the conclusion we will see the relevance of UNSC in the 21st century. Now, what is the Security Council? First of all, it is one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. So there are other principal organs of the United Nations, another 5. If you want me to make a separate video on this topic, you can write it in the comments. Now its primary responsibilities, what I already said, is maintaining international peace and security. And it is defined, or it is kind of fixed in the chapter 5 of the UN Charter. Okay, so the chapter 5 of the UN Charter actually talks about the primary responsibility of the Security Council. Now there is a General Assembly that happens in the Security Council, and the General Assembly has a very much altogether a different kind of role to play. Now, unlike the General Assembly, the decisions that UNSC or the Security Councils Council makes, they are binding on all UN member states. So basically, all the UN member states are binded, fixed by the decisions that are being made in the Security Council. Security Council was established in 1945, and you know that in 1945 we had our World War II just ended, so it was made just after the Second World War. Now the permanent 5. There are permanent 5 seats or members in the United Councils, and the members are China, France, Russian Federation, United Kingdom and United States. So China, Russia, France, UK and US. They were chosen as the victors of World War II. So they were all the victors, or they got victory in the Second World War, and they are the major powers at that time. So you see that permanent 5 seats were made out of the victors of the Second World War, and they are the major powers if you look at the history of 1945. And they hold individual veto power. Now veto power is something that you need to understand, so we have a separate slide. The next slide is about it. So just wait for a few seconds if you don't know what veto power is. I'm going to discuss it. And their permanent status is a reflection of the post-1945 geopolitical reality. So basically, the permanent status of these 5 countries reflects the geopolitical reality of post-Second World War, world scenario. Now, the non-permanent members. There are 10 members elected by the General Assembly for 2-year terms. Now, who elects these members? You need to remember that they are elected by the General Assembly, not by the UNSC. Now, seats of these 10 members, they are distributed by regional groups. Africa has got 3 seats. Asia Pacific has got 2 seats. Latin America and Caribbean, they get 2 seats. Western Europe and others get 2 seats. And Eastern Europe has 1 seat. Now these 10 members, they bring diverse perspectives, but do not have this veto power, which we are going to discuss in the next slide. Now the veto is a kind of power which is a very unique and controversial power. And that is also very important from your perspective of preparation. A no veto from any one of the P5 blocks a substantive resolution, even if it has 40 yes votes. That means if one member from these permanent 5 say no to any resolution, then it would not be passed, even if there are other 14 yes to it. So that is why this is a very controversial one, because it is kind of an absolute power that is there with the UNSC P5 block. Now, what is the purpose of this veto? Why was it invented or kind of, implemented? What was the intention behind it? The intention was to endure major power unity and prevent the UN from acting against a P5's vital interests. Now, the whole idea of veto was created so that this major power unity that was constructed after Second World War can be endured. And UN cannot act against the interests of these 5 major powers. This was the purpose of the implementation of veto. Now, of course, you can understand that there has to be criticism, against this kind of veto power. The major criticism that comes is it can lead to paralysis and inaction on critical issues. So when there is a critical issue emerging in the world, in any part of the world, for example, nowadays we are going through a situation where Syria and Ukraine are having this kind of critical issues in their own country. Now, one criticism that comes is that it is a paralysis kind of a situation. Paralysis means no one can do anything about it other than just watching it happening, and inaction. So basically not being able to do anything. So this is something that can happen because of the veto power that the P5 blocks carry with them. Next is, what does UNSC do? Now, what is the responsibility or main functions, you can say, of UNSC? The first and the most important function is peacekeeping and peacemaking. So they authorize military force or deploy UN peacekeeping missions. So basically they have the authority to, deploy a military force or, to carry forward a UN peacekeeping missions. But now the military force is entirely kind of deployed to maintain peacekeeping and peacemaking, not to indulge in a war, obviously. Second is sanctions. So they have the authority to sanction or impose diplomatic, economic, military or travel related sanctions. So they sanction diplomatic, economic, military and travel related things. Arms embargoes. Now, what does it mean? It means that they have the authority to prohibit the flow of weapons to conflict zones. So basically, the zones in the world which are conflict prone, they can have a conflict, they are kind of on the verge of being a conflict, or they are already into a conflicting situation. UNSC can stop the flow of weapons to this place. Now, why they are doing it? Again, the same point, they are actually ensuring that peace can be made and peace can be kept. Next is international tribunals. So they establish ad hoc international criminal courts. So basically these are criminal courts, but their character is not national but international, and they don't have a permanent kind of statute. They are ad hoc based. So basically they are established according to the need. So for example, we see that the conflict zones like Rwanda or Yugoslavia, they have witnessed this kind of international criminal courts to kind of make resolution on different kinds of conflicts at different levels of the society. The last one is the diplomatic measures. Now, diplomatic measures means issue ceasefire demands. So, if there is a ceasefire going on in some area, they can demand a ceasefire. They can condemn that kind of act. If it is a kind of brutal act, or it involves lot of killings and murders, so they can condemn any kind of any such act, and also can call for peaceful negotiations. So they can also act as a negotiator between two different zones which are in conflict with each other, and they can also try to come to a resolution regarding that specific problem. Now, from agenda to resolution. Now, when a UNSC takes a resolution, how does it take it? So, what is the step? What are the process of decision making? A situation, first of all, is placed on the agenda. So, basically, first the situation is placed, and this is agenda, and then consultations and debates are held, and that consultations and debates can be public or private. So basically it can be open to all, where everybody can come and it's kind of also it's live, or people can actually watch it. But there are also some private debates and consultations which are basically done closed door. Next is a draft resolution circulated. So first the situation is placed on the agenda, and then the consultations and debates are held. Then the draft resolution is circulated. Basically, a resolution is draft, it is not the final one, and every member gets a copy of that resolution and can also have a preview or overview of the whole thing. Then the voting happens. The voting requires 9 affirmative votes out of 15. So if you remember that there are 10 non-permanent members and 5 permanent members, so altogether it comes to a number of 15. Now among these 15 members, 9 members should actually support that draft resolution to be able to finalize it or confirm it. Now the catch here is that no PF member can vote no here. So when an agenda is placed and it is not yet a resolution, at this stage the PF member cannot vote a no. That means everybody has to either vote. Even the non-5 members cannot use their veto power. They can refrain themselves from voting, or kind of go against the resolution, but the veto power is not to be exercised at this stage. Now, if the resolution is passed after all this process, the resolution becomes an international law. So this is the kind of process from agenda to resolution. Next is case study. So now we will see a case study which happened in 2017. So the resolution on North Korea sanctions. What was the issue? The issue was North Korea's nuclear weapons program. So North Korea wanted to have a nuclear weapons program, and UNSC had to take a decision on that. Now, what did UNSC what was their action at that time? They unanimously passed resolution 2397 in 2017. So the number of the resolution is 2397 and it was unanimously passed by the UNSC members. And what did they do? They impose severe economic sanctions. That means that they say that, if you do this, then you have to, North Korea, that if you do this kind of nuclear weapons program, then you have to face severe economic, limitations or restrictions. Now, why was it passed? It was passed because it was a rare consensus among the P5, including China and Russia. So all of them were, against this kind of program. So all of them unanimously kind of consensus build up, which was rare because it generally doesn't happen that all P5 members were, uh, are agreeing on a certain issue. But this happened in 2017 at the case of North Korea. And what was the outcome? The outcome was that it demonstrated the Council's power when united, though enforcement challenges remain. Why is it said? Because the outcome was good, because it shows that when all the powers, all the UNSC powers are united, then what impact they can create on making and peacekeeping. But also there is a lack of enforcement in that place, because if they're only saying economic, kind of limiting the economic sanctions, it actually cannot stop a country from, kind of launching this kind of program if they have that economic stronghold already. So that is why the enforcement challenges actually remain. Now, is the Security Council still fit for purpose? What is the purpose of the AC, and does it serve the purpose till date? Because it was kind of, established long ago, 1945. So there are several arguments for reform. There are several, arguments for reform within UNSC. The first one is representation. Now, because there are no permanent seats from Africa or Latin America, there is a suggestion, or there is an argument that has been put forward that there should be permanent seats from Africa or Latin America. Why only permanent seats from all these countries? Then next is modern world. Now, the geopolitical power has shifted since 1945. The geopolitical power which was there in 1945 is no more the same. So, in that sense, there is a need of reform within ENSC according to the need of this time. Now, obviously, the next one is veto abuse. Obviously, as I said, that veto is a very controversial kind of a law, because it prevents action on humanitarian crisis. So it has been seen that UNSC have used veto power, which actually kind of augmented the humanitarian crisis in different parts of the world. So basically it is, the veto power is actually used by UNSC sometimes for inaction. So it prevents action. It actually stops UNSC to do something which they are not being able to do because of the veto power. And challenges to reform. Challenges to reform means any change requires amending the UN Charter, which needs the approval of all P5 members who are reluctant to dilute their power. So basically, the way UN Charter is made, it is a very rigid kind of a document, and P5 members need to have a approval, unanimous approval, to make any kind of change. That actually means that if you want to change something to kind of dilute the power of P5 members, it is very difficult to do. So basically, the UN Charter is made to keep the interest of the P5 members intact. Now conclusion, we will conclude here, and we will say in the conclusion that it is, UNSC is no doubt an imperative but an imperfect institution. Like any other institution, it has some disadvantages, but it also carry with it some kind of advantages. So the first thing you need to see is that the UNSC remains the only multilateral body with legal authority to sanction force globally. So UNSC is the only body only multilateral body which has the legal authority to sanction something. So it is not only about creating a law, but also enforcing or implementation of that law, international law, that power UNSC holds. And it is a product of its time, reflecting both the hope for collective security and the reality of politics, power politics. So basically, UNSC is a product of Second World War, and it reflects the hope for collective security, because after the Second World War, suddenly the earth actually, the whole world becomes a place of full of insecurity and war and killing and murder. So if you see from that perspective, UNSC was made to kind of uh, make that collective security again within the member organizations. And the reality of power politics, of course, that we see, that is reflected in the P5 members, then its effectiveness is directly tied to the political will and cooperation of its permanent members. It is true that the permanent members actually kind of directs or dictates the political will of UNSC, and how the cooperation will be made between different countries, different political institutions, that only the permanent members can decide. Despite its flaws, it is an indispensable platform for managing international crises. So basically, even after all these disadvantages or kind of criticisms that can be made about UNSC, it is no doubt that it is an indispensable platform, and we don't have an alternative till now. And UNSC has successfully managed international crises till now to a great extent. Now we are going to discuss some multiple choice questions, 10 actually. First one, how many member states are there on the United Nations Security Council? Now, as we have discussed, it is option number C, 15, because there are 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent members. Second is, which of the following is a permanent member of the UN Security Council? Now, you know that France, Japan, Germany, India, they are not. So France is the right answer here. And the P5s, again, to remind you, it is China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, and United States. Third question, what is the minimum number of votes required for a substantive resolution to be adopted by the Security Council? Now, here 9 votes I have already discussed. So option number B, 9 votes, and a substantive resolution requires at least 9 affirmative votes out of 50. The power of a single permanent member to defeat a resolution, even if it has majority support, is known as veto. So it is the right answer is veto. Next, under which chapter of the UN Charter can the Security Council authorize the use of military force? I have discussed it already, so it is chapter number 7. So chapter 7 deals with acts of aggression and allows for enforcement measures, including the use of force. So basically, the use of military force is specified in chapter number 7 of UN Charter. Next is, how are the 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council chosen? So it is, they are elected by the General Assembly for 2 terms. Again, this is something we have already discussed. See, most of the things that we have discussed, these are very important questions, and after covering the content of this video, I don't think there can be any other questions that can be asked from UNSC. So you cover everything with this. What is the primary responsibility of the UN Security Council as stated in the UN Charter? So the primary responsibility, as I have discussed, the maintenance of international peace and security. Next is, if a permanent member does not support a resolution but does not wish to veto it, they may abstain. That means they may abstain from giving any votes to the other side, any other side. So an abstention is not counted as a veto. The resolution can still pass if it receives 9 affirmative votes. A resolution that demands a ceasefire and recommends peaceful negotiations is most likely enacted under Chapter 6. So chapter 6 deals with the pacific settlement of disputes. So you have to remember that chapter 6 deals with the pacific settlement of disputes or ceasefire, and chapter 7 is just the opposite, to enforce military in kind of intervention to uh, ensure that ensure the end of the conflict. And last, which of the following is a key criticism of the Security Council structure? So sorry, I forgot to write the answer here, but it meets too frequently. Its non-permanent members have too much power. It lacks representation from Africa and Latin America as permanent members. Its resolutions are not legally binding. So you see that A is incorrect, B is also incorrect, and D is also incorrect. So C is the right answer, and that we have already discussed. Thank you very much. And if you have anything to share, like comment, write you can write a comment. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.